Good evening, head-to-head listeners. This is Chris. Hope everybody's doing well on this Thursday evening. Rolling into the weekend here. Me and Scott are heading out to Chicago this Sunday to go see what the Windy City has to offer. So we're looking forward to that. Getting to meet a few different people in different aspects of life and different businesses. Hopefully we're getting an opportunity to discuss what's going on in their lives, what's made them successful, and of course, as always, what motivates them to do what they do every single day. Today's guest is a persuasive communications expert and author of going to be 2 books now. It is Mr. Jeff Tippett. We've had a very good dialogue within this conversation. A lot of different things were talked about. But the most important thing that I took away from this conversation with Jeff was kind of some differences in language and how to talk to people, and really how to resonate with people on different levels. So sit back, relax. I hope the commute is not too bad, and any feedback, of course, is always welcome here at Head to Head.
Mr. Tippett, you there, sir?
Hey, this is Jeff. I'm here.
Hey, Jeff, this is Scott. Chris is with me as well. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good afternoon, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for allowing me a chance to speak with you guys today.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. We appreciate getting everybody's successful words out that we can. So welcome to Head to Head. Pretty simple. We just, have a nice conversation and make sure that you get your message across and get to share a little bit about your story, and we'll go from there. So if you don't mind, Jeff, give us a little heads up. Tell us a little bit about your organization and what you're bringing to the table so far.
Well, I speak professionally, so I'm out about 50% of the time on stages and doing the work around speaking. And then the other 50% of the time, I work with clients at my public affairs and communications firm that I founded in 2014 called Targeted Persuasion.
Okay. Very good. So 2014, that was a good year. You started a nice organization, nice company. And what got you into that?
Well, yeah, it was an interesting year, especially to start a company that's doing political consulting work. It was the wrong time, the wrong year. Like, I should have started this in 2013. So I launched that at a very difficult time. But much to my surprise and joy, within the first week of putting my shingle out, I signed a half dozen clients. And then within the first quarter of my company's existence, I signed my first international client, which is this little company out of California called Airbnb.
Oh, look at that, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really enabled me to get the company up off the ground and running at a rapid pace pretty quickly.
Good deal. And what exact, if you don't mind, just for our listeners, what services do you actually bring to the table? I mean, I understand public affairs, communications, but public speaking, but what do you guys actually bring forward to the table? Is there a niche?
Yeah, so my firm, Targeted Persuasion, in the area of public affairs, we work with our clients who have policy prescriptions that they either want to move forward or things that they want to stop from happening. And then we work with legislators, we work with the media, we work with the lobbyists, we work with the general public. And specifically what we do is we help build grassroots coalitions that can help support what our clients want to see done or what they want to see stopped. And last session, we ran a hugely successful campaign called Free the Mimosa.
There you go.
I like that in the morning. I'll take that.
Yeah, in North Carolina, prior to our work, you could not buy a mimosa or any type of alcoholic beverages at a restaurant on Sundays prior to noon. The thought process was this was old blue law, right? And you're supposed to be in church.
That's their old Southern good old boy mentality.
That's right. You're supposed to be in church, worshiping God, not drinking anything alcohol. Now, once 12 o'clock hit, you're fine. Go drink all you want to. And it also involved shopping as well, retail. So if you wanted to pick up like a case of beer for the afternoon game, you couldn't do that before noon. But we built the largest campaign that our client had seen in this space in all the states that they worked in. And we helped move this forward. We were part of a team that moved that forward. And then the governor signed the bill.
That's pretty good.
That's outstanding.
Congratulations on that. So if anybody if anybody really has an initiative that they're trying to work through, or you will take your organization and work with their organization to build that momentum.
Absolutely. So we can go in and help pull the grassroots together, which is one of the top things that any person or group could do to move policy forward, is getting a grassroots support so that as legislators are making decisions in committees or on the floor, whatever that looks like, that they hear directly from constituents with a constituent's opinion. And, we turned this when the client even themselves didn't know that this could even happen. But we built enough support behind it that the people showed up, gave their opinion, they voiced what they wanted to have happen, and the legislators listened.
Okay. How long did that take you guys, just out of curiosity?
So this is a great question. This was a pop-up campaign. So it was first launched, the bill was introduced, and the thinking was that just a conversation would be started. Like we get the word out there, just kind of let it fizzle,
right,
but at least you start the conversation. And sometimes that's part of your legislative strategy. You just want to get people talking about it up front. However, it was introduced, it started gaining momentum, and the National Restaurant Association in Washington, D.C. reached out to us along with the State Association and said, hey, Jeff, we are getting some traction behind this. We had about 4 to 5 days to get this campaign up and running, and then we ran about a 6.5-week campaign from the time we launched it until the final votes happened on the floor. So it was fast and furious. It's like one of those all-hands-on-decks fun type of campaigns.
So for those individuals having an early lunch and having a cocktail beverage with it, they can directly thank you for that out in the Carolinas.
That's right. And the hospitality industry really appreciated this work. A large portion of their revenues come from things like this, when people come in on Sundays to bring grandma in, to bring mom in, to celebrate Mother's Day, Easter, whatever it happens to be. So we help create jobs by passing this bill.
That's pretty good. And I'll tell you what, Chris was telling me a little bit about you and your company before we got on this this podcast here today. And he was noting to me that you have some books in the works, and you have a book out there published as well.
I do. I have one book out there, and my second book is scheduled to be released January the 1st, 2019. And I am happy to say we are on track to get this book finished. My book is called Unleashing Your Superpower: Why Persuasive Communication is the Only Force You Will Ever Need. And in my book, I make the big argument, my big statement here is that we all live or die based upon our ability to persuade. So in my book, I walk people all the way through. I start with telling the story of my international adoption of a baby from the country of Haiti, and then I walk people through all the steps that it takes to make a persuasive argument.
Okay. So let's talk about this then. So the word persuasive, right? It's a very touchy word, right? Because it can for some people they may feel that that's a negative. I feel it's a positive. I have a sales background personally, so I understand the aspect of it. But how would you describe persuasiveness to the general person walking down the street?
Well, you're not alone in thinking, are there negative connotations? And typically when people say, hey, Jeff, what do you do for a living? I say, I speak professionally. The next question almost always is, oh, what do you speak about? At which point I respond with, I speak on persuasive communications. And 9 times out of 10, the response is, oh, so you teach people how to manipulate for a living. Right. And a lot of people think that. And I just, I chuckle and I laugh because it's not their fault that they believe that. Oftentimes we've gone through sales trainings and things like that when we've been giving these little phrases and we've learned how to twist people's arms. And when I take a moment and explain to them the difference between manipulation and persuasion, light bulbs go off and they understand the difference between the two, and they see that persuasion is about leadership, and it really clears the air and sets them free to work persuasively. But we have to dispel that notion of and the difference between manipulation and persuasion.
Gotcha.
And I agree with that, because again, to Scott's point on the sales background, there's a difference between manipulation and persuasive. You got to build value into what you're talking about, and that's persuading them to change their mind when you build value on that particular subject matter, at least from my standpoint.
It's kind of like letting them see the light, for lack of better terms.
Yeah, you guys are right on. So manipulation means this. It means to control or to influence a person or situation, but to do it cleverly. to do it unfairly. And what happens in manipulation is, just like persuasion, we are moving people, but we're moving them for our own benefit, for our own serving ourselves and moving them forward, making things happen because of us and what we want for ourselves. Now, let's contrast that with persuasion. And persuasion means to cause someone to do something through reasoning or argument. And the word argument here is more to the original sense of the word. It's not what we do on Thanksgiving when we talk about religion and politics with family. No, it means this. It means two people sharing, there are two groups of people sharing their ideas back and forth of what's important to them and what they're after. So if you are the one persuading, as you can start to imagine now, that means you have to be willing to listen. You have to listen to the other person, understand the gaps that they have, what it is they really want, what it is that they're after. And then after a period of time, sustained effort, that you come to the very same understanding. Now, I look for two magical words when I'm in conversation with clients or people or whatever it happens to be, to know if I manipulated them or if I persuaded them. And when I hear these two magic words, I know that I persuaded them. And those words are, that's right. So when they say at the end of a conversation, hey, Jeff, yeah, that's right. Your company can help me. Hey, Jeff, yeah, you're right. You are the best speaker to come to. And I do believe you can help our business leaders. When that happens, they want it just as much as I want it. They're bought in just as much as I am. And they're just as excited as I am about it. Now I know I persuaded them and I didn't manipulate them. I thought of it from their perspective and what was important to them.
Makes sense. And, Chris and I come from a military background, some law enforcement, some, security side, et cetera. But leadership takes a huge initiative. And, when you have your juniors beneath you, so to speak, and you're leading them, a lot of people, there's this meme online, right? It's the boss is sitting at the desk and there's 5 people in front of him and he's pointing forward, but he's still sitting behind his desk. And then there's the other part of the meme where it's the leader is pulling his team behind him. So with that in mind, and persuasiveness, just staying on that topic, for a lot of our listeners in the military, in law enforcement, how can they kind of reevaluate themselves to make sure they're being a persuasive leader that rather than a dictatorship management boss to their juniors, to make sure that they're being better in their career?
Yeah, great question. And oftentimes, especially in the military, maybe in corporate life, we've kind of depended upon twisting people's arms, just making things happen instead of persuading them. And to me, as I said earlier, persuasion is about leadership. Persuasion is about seeing the future, seeing a change, seeing how things could be different, seeing how things could be better, and then caring enough about the people that you're working with that you're willing to invest the time, the energy, the resources to listen to them, to care for them, to know what it is that they want, and find a way for both of you to move together. And I have a section in my book where I talk about binary versus non-binary options. And sometimes we think all of our decisions are just black, white, yes, no, 1 or 2, when oftentimes we can make decisions that aren't exactly what we first thought, but at the end, both people or both groups of people are extremely happy. So to go back to what you're saying, yes, this is about leadership, and persuasion is about seeing a future, seeing something different, but seeing it to the other person's benefit and why that person's going to be better off, not just you.
Yeah, me and Chris were actually, it's funny you brought that up. It's leadership and everything. We were reading an article, I believe it was on LinkedIn. It was a CEO of General Electric, I think it was, female CEO. And she would train, you remember this article? She would train her upper management to actually make decisions and to allow them to make decisions and allow them to make mistakes. And I felt like that was a great aspect, because I had a boss a little while ago that said to me, and he was my boss, he said, a lot of the problems with the company that we're in currently is that people in today's day and age are scared to make decisions for their own teams, because they don't want the higher ups above them or they don't want to fail in lieu of the higher ups above them correcting them. You feel that's something that's true today, that people are kind of managers, higher ups are intimidated to make decisions for their teams?
In some cases, yes. But what I am encouraged to see is oftentimes today, people and managers, people on top, people that are leading, giving people that work for them the ability to fail, and to fail quickly, and to fail fast. Great. Now let's learn something from this and let's move. And that empowers them to go make the right decisions. I mean, all of us that are leading, we fail too, right? So accepting that and welcoming that, making that part of the culture that, it's okay. As you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I've started a couple of companies. You've got to be, some things I've done with companies have really succeeded and some things haven't. But, just kind of acknowledging that and accepting it. And it's not a knock on us if things don't go well or happen the way that we want them to happen. We've learned something. We were out there, right? Yeah, we made a decision. We made it happen. And empowering other people to do the same can change the culture of an organization and the trajectory as well.
Well, as long as you have the failure to quit is the only failure that I'm not opposed of. As long as you don't quit your endeavors, you're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we make decisions that I guess it depends on how you look at it. Did you quit or did you just make the very best decision? One of the companies that I purchased and I planned to redo, and I did a good job with all of it. I just couldn't turn it exactly where it needed to be. I didn't have the time to really put into what this company could be. So I ended up exiting it. I didn't view it as a failure or that I quit. What I viewed was a willingness to understand, hey, at this time in my life, I don't have the capacity to put into what it needs. But my friend here who wants the company does. So how can I work a deal out with her? How can she acquire this company? And how can she go chase her dreams, right? So even in that, I found a win.
Right. Well, you help somebody else accomplish something, and so that's almost a moral victory.
Absolutely. In fact, I spent a whole chapter of my book talking about helping others find their win as a way to find your win. And Zig Ziglar said it this way. He said, you'll get everything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And oftentimes, though, our heart is about ourselves, and our intentions are about ourselves, and our motives are about ourselves. But we can take it off of ourselves and look at the people that we're working with or looking at the others that are making the decisions, help them win, then in exchange, we then can win.
Well, that makes sense, and I like that a lot. Now, your books, now you have one out currently, and I believe that's called Pixels or the New Ink.
It helps people that to figure out how to take their ideas, to put them online, become thought leaders, and to make money. So that book is done well. It's helped me get a lot of speaking gigs, talk on that a lot. And then the next one's coming out January 1st. It'll be on Amazon as well.
So the first book is also available on Amazon?
Sure is. Pixels Are the New Ink. Just Google that. Amazon listing will pop right up.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure my listeners, have an outlet to find your workings, so that way they can get their hands on not only that your new one coming out, but have something here before January to kind of get a hold of it and sink their teeth in.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I have a chapter of my new book available for free. This section is on crafting a message, and it really helps people. And this applies to, like, if you're applying for jobs, if you're in leadership, if you're in a career change, if you're trying to move something forward. This chapter is called Crafting a Simple Message. And in this chapter, I help people understand how you figure out how you formulate what it is that you're trying to say and craft it in such a simple way that you can get other people on board with you.
Okay. And let me ask you this. What are you guys working on now at your company? Any messages you want to put out there? Any frontiers that you guys are approaching that you can speak about?
Well, we
currently?
just wrapped up yesterday. We do a lot of political work. Probably about 75% of our work is political. So we just wrapped.
So you guys have been pretty busy the last couple of months.
It's been crazy busy. And we had a really good season. So now we're kind of entering into a little bit of a rest period as we get through the holidays. And then we get geared up in January for new fights that are going on at legislatures.
Okay. How do you like working with Washington? Is it a place that do you enjoy being involved with it, or you feel that there's a lot of what's the word, like spider webs you have to crawl through to kind of get things done? I guess that's the best way to put it, right? Like, and I'm not trying to say any parties or anything like that. I'm just kind of curious.
General.
Yeah, I have a friend that works down in DC, and he was telling me about the the spider webs, for lack of better terms, that are just to even get a box of pens brought into his office is a little bit outrageous. So.
It does take a lot of patience. I think what works for me, and I just did a big project for HBCUs across the country in DC, and I think that what works for me is like this tenacity and this this passion and this energy and continuing to push through. There are barriers after barriers after barriers after barriers. But that's okay, right? We figure out how to continue moving forward when we have a vision and we have a dream and when we're passionate to do what it is we want to do.
Well, I can appreciate that. So a little bit more about kind of your upstarts and your involvement with the military. We discussed a little earlier. You did a little bit of educational as an educator with our armed services at one time.
I did. It was an exciting time of my life. I grew up in a small town between two military bases. So military life, and my father had been in the military. So military was just kind of part of my existence growing up. Some of my relationships were people that were in the military. And then when I finished grad school, I got hired on, and I think it's about 3 years. I taught on post. I had a great time, and I was teaching freshman composition, and at the same time, I was teaching at East Carolina University freshman as well, and I was amazed at the difference teaching on post versus teaching at the university. The students that I worked with on post were simply amazing. I don't even know how they could keep up with all the work. Many of them were married. They would have kids. They were in service. They were trying to keep all this stuff together. And at the same time, they were taking night classes and they were working hard to change their life. And many times they were working up to become officers. And I had a chance to spend about 3 years working with them. And they were just amazing. It's just, in fact, I trade the university students for them any day because they were so committed to their studies and doing work with excellence and wanting it, like really wanting to get in there and understand the material and become better people. It was an amazing groups of people that I worked with.
That's fantastic. What, if you don't mind me asking, what military base?
I grew up next to Cherry Point, which is outside of Havelock, North Carolina,
okay.
And then Camp Lejeune in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
You were surrounded by
lots
Marines, huh?
Of Marines.
There you go. And your father was
my father was in the Air Force.
Okay, very good, nice. And you guys ended up by Marine bases, so
he was a smart one.
Yeah, we ended up settling there, and which is fun. It was a nice little town to be raised in, and in fact, I developed some lifelong relationships from military people that I taught. I have one that recently, about a year ago, came to stay with me. He needed to be in town. He was doing a triathlon and came to town, and we got to hang out and catch up. So I have relationships that are still alive today from my time teaching on post.
That's fantastic. And family life for you? Are you still out in the Carolina coast?
So I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is the capital of pretty close.
Close.
About 100 miles from there. And then I have a second home in North Myrtle Beach, a condo there where I do miss being closer to the ocean, miss the coast. So I have a second home there where I can go hang out as well.
Well, I took note in a little bit earlier conversation about when we kind of glossed over it, and I don't want it to be missed for some other listeners that might have picked it up. But you adopting your daughter from Haiti, and how? I mean, we don't. How does that go about? I mean, I know adoption is tough enough in our own country. How was it on an international?
Well, I didn't begin the process with any desire to adopt a baby. It was never a lifelong dream. It was never anything I thought of, never anything I considered. And my father went to Haiti to do some humanitarian relief. And while he was there, the translator that was there helping their team was a 9th grade student who was in an English-speaking Christian school in Haiti. And she happened to get pregnant. And the school gave her a really tough decision to make. They said, you either need to get rid of your baby or you need to drop out of school because we're not going to allow you to be in our school as a single mother. I can't even imagine making that kind of decision, or what happens in a person's head, what happens in their emotions to face all that and to come with with that decision. But her decision was ultimately that she felt like the best for her child and the best for her was to go through the adoption process, to find someone to take the child on so she could continue her studies and this child could get the support that she needed. And for whatever reason, guys, when my dad showed me the picture of this baby, I looked into her eyes and it was just instant love. And I just knew that my calling next was to complete this adoption. And I went in at a time in Haiti when the government was falling apart. President Aristide's government was collapsing. There was riots. It was the first time. I grew up in rural North Carolina. It was the first time in my life that I had guns pointed at my head, or had machetes held at my neck, or had to flee a city for my own safety. So I went in at a very tumultuous time.
Wow.
Well, I can tell just, by conversation, you're a very positive individual and you bring high energy. And I imagine when you're passionate, when you particularly are passionate about something, your energy level probably skyrockets.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean there weren't disappointments.
So
there were times that it just my adoption just totally fell apart. Like there were those moments, but I had to pick myself back up again.
Right. Well, I mean, I can definitely appreciate that, having 3 kids of my own. Scott has 2. And as a father, I have a daughter. Scott has 2 daughters. There's something unique about that bond when you look in a baby girl's eyes. So that resonates with me to the umptus. And I personally have admiration for you for doing that. I think that is an outstanding thing you did. And obviously you don't want accolades for it, but I'm here to tell you, I think that's fantastic. And I hope that, more people
can open the minds up and open their hearts up like that.
I mean, I'm actually just a little bit I kind of lost my words there, my train of thought, I actually pictured myself as you were talking, kind of going through that and the relief of when that happened, when you're able to bring that child back with you, going through that. That's impressive to me. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was the hardest 6.5 months of my life. Looking back, it doesn't seem like it was that long. When I was in the middle of it, it was just grueling, and I just didn't think it was going to end. It was like one disappointment after another disappointment. But you guys will like this. My first trip over to meet her, one of my best friends was an ex-military Marine, and he was much more aware of what was going on in Haiti than I was. And he went over. It's like, Jeff, I'm going as your bodyguard. For at least your first trip, I'm going to go over and protect you and take care of you. And boy, was I glad he was there on that first trip.
That's fantastic. Well, I appreciate a fellow Devil Dog helping you out on that deal. That's always good to hear our Devil Dogs are still out there and support.
Absolutely. In fact, like some of these times when it was collapsing, he was also a pilot. He's like, Jeff, let's just go get a helicopter. We could fly over to Haiti. We could pick her up and bring her right back, man. He was so solution oriented of how we're going to fix this problem.
Yep, that's outstanding.
Sounds about right.
So, Jeff, some upcoming events that you have, some speaking events that you have that you want to share with our listeners if they happen to be in your area, anything going on between now and the end of the year?
Yeah, I'm here in Raleigh area on December 7th. And then in January, I head to St. Martin. Of all times to land a speaking gig in St. Martin, I'll be there in January while it's freezing here in the U.S. I'll be taking my flip-flops and I'm heading out and enjoying the sand. And then let's see, so February, I'm in Savannah. So a lot of cool stuff coming up.
Yeah, that sounds horrible that you got to pack your flip-flops. That sounds terrible.
Well, these groups, they know how to win me over, like to come. They're like, hey, Jeff, we're at a brand new resort in St. Martin. We'll give you an extra night. Bring your flip-flops and come hang out. I'm like, yeah, I'm all in.
That's great, man. Well, we hope you keep up the good work. And I want to ask, how do people find you? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the easiest way is through my website, jefftippett.com, JEFFTIPPETT.com. And if you get close to that, anything close to that, any of the misspellings, I have a lot of Google ads up. It'll probably pop up. And if you want the free chapter, all you have to do is text the word persuade to 66866. And from that, immediately you'll have access to one of the chapters on crafting your simple message, available for you right now.
Appreciate that, Jeff. You sound like a really good guy. You're doing great things in this world. We hope you keep up the good work. And we'll definitely like to speak to you again soon here down the road and kind of follow up with some more of your missions and how they're going.
Thanks, guys, for the opportunity. Thanks for trusting me to share valuable content with your listeners. I appreciate it. And yeah, let's definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jeff.
We look forward to your book coming out in January as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.